Today you guys are going to work on a project where we are going to graph the three different types of lines. They're all lines written in three different forms. So before we do that though, I want to make sure that you know how to find the slope and the y-intercept from each of these here. So I'll do a few with you and then you'll try the rest on your own. Then you can flip to the next page and graph each of those lines to make a spider web on the graph paper. So in number 1, this is called slope-intercept form because there is a slope, that's the number in front of the x, and there is a y-intercept, that is the number by itself without an x attached to it. So the slope in this equation is a -1 over 3. My y-intercept is 19, but we're going to be fancy and write it as an ordered pair because this here is 0 for the x, y-intercept. 19 is going to be in the y spot of the coordinate pair. So in number 2, this one is not written in slope-intercept form. What I'm going to do is draw an idea of how you would graph that line. So x is 18, you would go all the way to the number 18, and you'd put a dot there. An ordered pair on the x-axis at 18. Then you would draw a line that cuts through that point on the x-axis. Every ordered pair on this line has an x value of 18. So whenever we have a special case, it's always easiest to just sketch a picture and draw it, so that way we see what the slope is. So if this here slope drops straight down under, then the slope, we call that undefined. This has an undefined slope. So if the slope is undefined, we look at the y-intercept. It never, ever, 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 ever crosses the y. So this here has no y-intercept. Y-intercept, there's none. So this one does not have a y-intercept. I'll do one more of these with you, and then you can try the rest on your own. So number 3, we are back in slope-intercept form. Slope is always the number in front of the x. Y-intercept is the number behind it. My slope in this situation is 1 over 3. My y-intercept sits in the y spot of the ordered pair. It's a -19. Very easy. So soon, once you complete these tables, you will go to your graph, put an ordered pair at 19 on the y-axis, and move down 1 over 3. You'll draw this line, you'll draw this line, and continue. So go ahead and try numbers 4 through 6. Get the slope and the y-intercept. When you're ready, we're going to look at number 7 together. So in number 7, this is in slope-intercept form because it is y equals mx. So in this situation, the plus b, there's no b in the back, so it's just 0, which is fine. It just means my y-intercept is 0. So in this situation, my slope is -5 over 6, and my y-intercept sits in the back of the ordered pair. It's the number that was here by itself. It was a 0. So number 8 is the same. That is slope-intercept form. We have a y equals mx. The plus b is just plus 0. Y-intercept is 0. Not too difficult. So go ahead and try getting the slope and the y-intercept for numbers 1 through 8. Okay, the rest of these on this page are special lines. So for number 9 through 14, I highly suggest, that's an ugly line, I highly suggest that you draw a coordinate plane. So y equals 0, here's the y value at 0. It cuts through the y-axis, through the y, cut through the y-axis at 0. So this is a 0 slope, and it has a y-intercept, it's right here, at 0, 0. So this would be for number 9. Number 10, same idea. But in number 10, you're going to draw a line that cuts through the x-axis. This is the x-axis, so it cuts through it. So 9 and 10 are a little weird, but not too bad. Numbers 11 and 12 are just like the one we did up there earlier. You'll put an ordered pair where x is 12. You'll cut through that line, undefined slope with no y-intercept. Let's look at 13 together. So number 13, we've got an x, we have a y. So number 13, it says y equals negative 10. Okay, so y equals negative 10. You're going to find negative 10 on your y-axis. Then you're going to cut through that axis with a straight horizontal line. That's the line y equals 10. So in this line, the slope looks like the top of a Z. So the slope is 0. My y-intercept, it absolutely cuts through the y-axis. My y-intercept is 0, comma, and it cuts through the y-axis at the number negative 10. So try the same thing with 14. Very easy. If you struggle with special lines, draw the picture so you know what it looks like, and then you can see the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, let's look at these last 4 easy ones, and then down here we've got more special lines. So those are all special, those are not difficult. But I'm going to do 15 and 17, and then you can do 16 and 18. So at number 15, we first need to solve for y. This is called standard form. When an equation is in standard form, I don't know what the slope is, I don't know what the y-intercept is. Standard form is the least useful thing for graphing when we're solving for y. So in this case, this is standard form. We need to get this letter y by itself. To get y by itself, you always move your x first. They're an x for a reason, get rid of them, plus 6x. That leaves you with a 2y equals 6x plus 2. Can't combine those, they're not like terms. Last step is always divide, so I divide every single thing by 2. So in number 15, my equation is y equals 6 divided by 2 is 3 with an x. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So 15, I had to solve for y by moving the x and dividing the coefficient. Now that we are in slope-intercept form, I can identify my slope and I can identify my y-intercept. Goes in the y spot of your ordered pair. 16 is exactly the same as 15, same steps, different numbers. Move the x, divide the number in front. 17. So in number 17, this is what you guys worked on last time. There's 2 ways to graph them. You can either solve for y, so you get the slope and the y-intercept, or you could pull the point out of there and look at what the slope is in front of the x. So in this situation though, it wants the slope and the y-intercept, which means we're going to put it in slope-intercept form, which means we're going to solve for y. So to solve for y from point-slope form, I start by distributing to get rid of parentheses. Negative 1/4 times x is a negative 1/4 x. Negative 1/4 times negative 8 is a positive 2. If you struggle with fractions or with negatives, you can plug that in the calculator. Negative 1/4 times negative 8. I'm going to bring the left side down. So now last step, y is almost alone. I need to move my constant. So I subtract 3 from both sides. When I subtract 3, I subtract it from the number. So that leaves me with y equals negative 1/4 x minus 1. That is in fact slope-intercept form. So I now have the equation in slope-intercept form. My slope is negative 1/4. My y-intercept is 0, negative 1. Okay, so try 16, try 18. get your special line information, and then you can flip to the next page and start graphing these lines.